Jephthah's vow, Judges 11:29-40. The sun burned hot over the rugged hills of Gilead. Dust clung to the sandals of warriors as they prepared for battle. The nation of Israel stood once again at a crossroads of survival. Their enemies, the Ammonites, had risen in power, threatening to crush them under the weight of war. Fear rippled through the land, but in the midst of the trembling hearts, a man named Jephthah stepped forward. Jephthah was no ordinary leader. He was the son of a harlot, driven out of his father's house by his own brothers. Rejected, despised, and cast aside, he grew up in exile. Yet in the wilderness, Jephthah became strong, a skilled warrior, a man who knew hardship, and a man who carried wounds deeper than any sword could inflict. When Israel had no one else to turn to, the elders came crawling back to him, begging him to lead them. And so, with the Spirit of the Lord upon him, Jephthah rose to face the Ammonites. But as he marched toward battle, anxiety gnawed at his heart. He longed for victory, yes, but he also longed for acceptance, for a place where he belonged. And in a moment of desperation, Jephthah made a vow. He lifted his eyes toward heaven and whispered, "Lord, if you will deliver the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in peace shall surely be yours. I will offer it up as a burnt offering." The vow echoed in the heavens, a dangerous promise, a vow made in haste. Jephthah rallied his men and charged into battle. The clash was fierce. Arrows filled the sky, swords clanged, the cries of war shook the earth. But the Lord granted Israel a great victory. The Ammonites fell before them, their cities crushed one by one. Triumph was written in the dust, and Israel rejoiced. But while Israel celebrated, Jephthah's vow waited for him, like a shadow looming over the horizon. When the dust of war had settled, Jephthah returned home. His heart raced as he approached his house, his vow echoing in his mind. Then, the door opened, and out came his only child, his daughter. She danced toward him with tambourines, her face radiant, her laughter pure, her steps filled with joy at her father's return. She was his pride, his future, his one and only. Jephthah's knees buckled. His victory turned to ash in his mouth. He tore his garments and cried out, "Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, for I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I cannot go back." The young girl stopped. Her eyes searched her father's face, and though fear flickered, she spoke with courage beyond her years. "My father," she said, "if you have given your word to the Lord, do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth. For the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Ammonites." Her voice did not tremble. She did not beg for her life. Instead, she asked for one thing. "Let me go up to the mountains for 2 months to bewail my virginity with my friends." Jephthah agreed, and so she went, with her companions, to the lonely hills. There she wept, not only for the life she would never live, not only for the marriage and children she would never know, but for the vow that had sealed her fate. 2 months passed, and she returned. She did not run, she did not hide. She walked with steady steps back to her father's house, her face calm, her spirit unbroken. And Jephthah fulfilled his vow. Israel mourned her loss, and year after year, the daughters of Israel went out to remember her. Not as a victim only, but as a symbol of courage, of obedience, of a tragic consequence of a rash promise. Lessons for us today. Jephthah's story pierces through the centuries and speaks into our world. It reminds us that our words carry weight. Promises made in haste can lead to heartbreak, not only for us, but for those we love. In our modern lives, how often do we make vows of a different kind? We promise things we cannot keep, to others, to ourselves, even to God. We make commitments in desperation, hoping to bargain our way into success, into security, into love. And yet, our words, once spoken, shape our future. But Jephthah's daughter also teaches us something profound. She walked into her fate with courage and dignity. Her obedience reflected a strength of character rare in any age. The lesson? Be slow to speak, but when you do, let your words be thoughtful, wise, and true. Honor your commitments, but never forget the cost of carelessness. And above all, know that God does not require reckless bargains to prove our devotion. He calls us to faith, to trust, and to walk in obedience without trying to manipulate His will. Jephthah won the battle against the Ammonites, but he lost what was most precious because of his vow. May we learn to guard our lips, weigh our promises, and remember that true faith does not need rash words, only steady trust.